Welcome everybody to the IMU Board of Trustees of Electric, Water, and Communications Utilities. We will call the meeting to order. And Monica, roll call.
Yes. Selgreg.
Present.
White.
Present.
Smith.
Present.
Broska.
Yes.
Voice.
Yes.
On cue. Good job.
He's technically got 30 seconds.
All right. Let's see. Anyone wishing to speak should come to the lectern and state your name and address. Let's see. None. We will move on. Let's see. We need a first and second motion to approve the consent agenda discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Let's go through them one by one. The approval of claims first. Anybody have any questions or comments?
So I saw some stuff on there as far as turbines and stuff. Are you going to talk about that, Mike, during your, I guess my question is are we good?
We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Okay, anybody else have anything on claims? All right, then we'll go to approval of the minutes of the prior meetings. Okay. Roll call, Monica, please.
Yes. Broska.
Yes.
Voice.
Yes.
Selgreg.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start out with the electric utility informational items.
Sounds good.
Sorry.
Nope, we'll go through, got a few things here. We did lost a feeder pole here a couple weeks ago on the west side on 92 during that storm. Lost it. That pole broke off the ground. Able to reroute and get everybody back on, and after about 3 days, we were able to get everything put back up and get everything back to normal.
Mike, are there other utilities on that pole, or is it just ours?
That was ours, and then city has some, the crosswalk signal stuff is on that pole as well.
Okay. I was curious just with the location of it.
Yeah, Kurt's got some fiber on it. But yeah, to be honest, the way that pole laid over, the amount of damage we could have had could have been a lot worse. We got by pretty lucky in that situation. We did post for the internal postings for the apprentice journeyman positions last week. We're just crazy busy doing maintenance on vehicles and equipment. We got a lot of guys doing that. Fortunate guys that are able to do that stuff. We're doing it in-house. We are partaking in an emergency management training exercise on Wednesday. That'll be held, I believe, at City Hall in the EOC. It's going to be a large-scale power outage dealing with a tornado that goes through. So we'll be part of that training exercise.
Just as a FYI, I'm going to sit in and represent the board that afternoon.
Sounds good. I think it starts
at noon.
10? 10 o'clock?
10:30, I think.
Must have changed it.
Yeah, they had it. I think when it was originally posted, it was Eastern time or something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. And then, so we'll get to the turbine. So we'll start out with turbine 7. We still are waiting for the heat exchanger part that'll be here in about 4 weeks or so. Once that gets here, we do it. Of course, with the weather and everything, we got the radiator put back in. The radiator was good. We just got some connections we got to make up above there, and with the weather, we just had to seal it up. And with us still waiting on parts, we weren't gaining a whole lot. Trying to make guys work out in those conditions. So, turbine 8, we ran that today. Again, that's the one we're doing the controls on. The plan was to run it one last time as part of our quarterly report, and to make sure everything was working as we were doing it. We also had Waldinger there. One of the questions has been all along is our sensor, if it's reading vibration correctly or not. And we found out it is reading it correctly, but as we were watching it, it did trip out on vibration, which we haven't had that happen before. And so we did try to restart it with the diesel. It did it had too much vibration for it to go ahead and start. So now we're not for sure what the cause of that all is, but we're gonna have to bring some outside resource in to try and help us troubleshoot that vibration deal, what all that's gonna entail. But I'm guessing it's probably along the line of a bearing, and when I say bearing, they're huge, huge bearings. So, I do know when Waldinger was here today, they said it would be above and beyond anything that they would tackle. So, it's fairly large scale, but yeah, we've been in contact with our engineer late this afternoon to kind of go over that. I think the main takeaway for at least tonight is no, we're down turbine 7 and then down turbine 8 right now, unfortunately. The only thing, good side I will say, and I hate to even say this, but in my time here, we've only had one time that we've tried to start this thing in a major black, an outage, and within 5 minutes of doing that, we were able to get power back and restore power. So, like I say, we'll have to see where we're at, go through, get somebody in here to take a look at it and see what it's going to take to fix it. It's very limited, as you can probably guess, limited amount of people that will work on these things.
How old are they?
So the one that went down today was reinstalled in 2000. It's the one we brought in. The other one was in the 70s. They're both that 70s vintage.
Vintage.
So are we approaching a point where it doesn't pay for us to even have these things in there?
I think capacity payments are huge still for us. What we get out of
So that
capacity
more than
payments.
offsets all these costs.
Yeah, one of the things as a board, I was able to kind of, we'd always been getting a fractional share because of our large capacity, but over the past several years, we've got that moved up to where we're getting an equal share for the larger amount. So, that did make a big difference. And while this probably is not going to be cheap, we're not expecting it to be, much more than a year's payments. I mean, it's going to be an investment, but whatever we spend will continue to pay for itself over the next 10 years.
And I think there's some other, I've seen it as we went to other towns and helped with mutual aid before, when they've lost all their transmission to their town, they were able to at least run their generation. Knock on wood, we haven't been in that situation, like I said before, but should we get in that instance and both turbines are running, we can, we've got the option to at least get our town up and running. It may not be a deal where you'd have everybody on the whole time, but you could do what we call rolling outages, where we could have some people on for a while and roll it through to at least keep power, keep people's refrigerator, freezers, or whatever running for a certain amount of time.
Well, there's a part of me that thinks also to be hopefully continue to move more underground, which is the plan.
Yep.
That's going to probably be less and less necessary. And I would just say, just utilization of your guys' time also is, I don't know how much you spend doing that stuff. There's a part of it that said they could do something else.
So that's our generation substation guys. And to be honest, when the thing's working, there's not like a whole lot of dedicated hours that have to go up there to babysit it or anything like that. It's, we got systems that monitor, tell us if something's going on, but when it's just sitting there, it's pretty well just sitting there idle, kind of like your car, just ready to go whenever we're ready to go. But again, kind of to elaborate a little bit more, as we were on standby to run during these cold snaps, and one of the things, and I know this is hard to believe, but one of the things were the lack of wind and wind generation over that time, that there was concern that there wasn't going to be enough generation out there because there wasn't enough wind. So, luckily, we all made it through that. We didn't have to generate, and I didn't see anything else come through me. There was warnings that they thought that the MISO grid was going to have to generate, but I don't think they ended up having to call on anybody.
Yeah, there was a lot of people on standby and ready to go, either across SPP and MISO, but.
And SPP was the bigger one area where they were concerned as part of the MISO. But. So anyways, I'll definitely keep everyone up to speed once we find out more on where we're at with this turbine 8.
Oh, thank you.
Wish I had better information.
Okay, moving on to water utility.
Oh yeah, I don't have a whole lot either. Kind of just still winter maintenance. We were taking our big tanks down, cleaning them, inspecting them, as well as doing our own work on our big pumps at the plant, changing oil and making sure everything's good at the bearings on that. Did get some good news. Some of our filter consoles, which are big pieces of equipment that were ordered a year and a half ago, we finally received those last week, as well as some flow meters. And then Kurt mentioned last meeting, they're switching over some fiber for us. All that stuff is in, so hopefully scheduled the week of February 12th, we'll start working on that stuff, and then they've got us blocked out for about 2 months to get all of our plant upgrades and stuff completed. Other than that, that's just all we got.
Just some time ago, we dropped a pump to get it lower because of the water levels in one of the wells. Do we have any updates on that? Are we still, is that holding? Is it continuing to fall? Is it risen?
It's coming back up. It's just, at that point in time, in the summertime, we were drawing so much water and it wasn't recovering. But we're back up to, I'm not going to say normal, but we are gaining back. And then hopefully with all this snow and moisture, it'll help out as well. So as of now, we're okay.
Okay. Next, we'll go to communications. Kurt?
Yep, I don't have a lot. Again, just dealing with the snow and cold weather here the last couple of weeks. So obviously we're done putting drops in for the season, so we're having to temp everything in. So bit of a problem. We're going out and trying to find handholds, stuff like that. But the guys have been doing a good job through the snow and the cold, so I appreciate that. We've been able to keep up with installs and haven't had to really move anything around so far. So knock on wood, we get some of the smells off. That'll help a little bit too. So
With those temps, do we ever run into any issues with snow blowing?
Oh yeah, we've already chewed up at least one, if not two already. So yeah, it's just one of the things that go with it, which is why we hate putting them down. But you just get to a point where you have to. So
and you let them know, the people know, like,
yeah,
be careful, and if it happens, it's.
And the problem is that they're normally right there on the property line, so it's not normally the people that we just installed. It's probably the neighbors coming down to be helpful, not knowing they're there, and then they chew them up. So, but yeah,
No good deed, right?
we lose a few every year, and then the key is we hope not to have a lot on the ground come spring, because there's nothing worse than a wet spring when all of a sudden the grass starts growing, because then they get mowed over too. But we'll get after them as quickly as we can next year when we get on the ground. So
Great.
and then other than that, the only other thing is we did make an offer for the field tech position. It was accepted, so hoping to have a new field tech in-house on February 12th. So coming soon.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go on to combined electric, water, and communications action items. And we have need a first and second motion on a resolution setting public hearing for fiscal year 2025 budget.
So second.
Okay, Monica? Or is there any discussion on anything? Okay, Monica?
Selgrade,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Rosca,
Yes.
and White.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then we've got combined electric, water, and communications informational items. Chris?
Alrighty. We are working feverishly, or Chris is working feverishly, finishing up the budget. It is largely complete. We did just get information that our property insurance, the larger books of business, are going up 40%. So,
Wow.
Not an exciting development. We were initially planning on a 25 to 30% increase, but it looks like they're coming in a little worse than we'd expected. So, as everything else, we'll kind of flow that through, make sure we have that, because there really isn't, unfortunately, we're kind of in a position where we have to say, well, that's unfortunate, and then pay the bill. ICAP's our property provider, and You know, unfortunately, it can't just, change vendors, and there's no telling if that next vendor would be any better yet.
So that's the property insurance.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything on the medical piece yet? What the increase potentially will be?
Nothing official, but I don't expect, I mean, we still have increasing reserves. So I can't imagine that in an environment of increasing reserves where we're hoping to kind of settle those down. You know, we probably won't lower them, but I think now we should expect to keep them the same. Of course, we'll see that information come in when renewals come in, but right now with the numbers that everyone's expecting, I'm anticipating it to be flat for the year. Last week I was at MEAN. The MEAN Board of Directors did increase their wholesale energy rate 7%. So it's that 7% on top of our transmission charges have increased 17%. Is putting some rate pressure on there. I think we're not complete with that, but you know, we're incorporating all those in. I don't anticipate it'll take a rate increase of anywhere near that. You know, that's our wholesale rate. You know, right now, if I had to guess, we're probably talking about a 3%, 3.5% increase. But we're at that point as we're finishing everything up. It's a little bit of getting nickel and dimed by a lot of these increases. So I'm working through the forecasts and try to make sure we have something, that whatever we set our rates on is workable for the future, doesn't put any pressure in the future. So,
Chris, did you say, so the wholesale price is going up 7%?
Yep.
And did you say the wholesale and transmission combined is 17, or transmission is 17?
Just the transmission component
So it's 24%.
Well, 17% of the transmission component. It's transmission charges are about 10% of our wholesale bill.
Okay.
Now more, so that 10% is going up 17%.
Yeah, 17.
And then the rest of the bill is going up 7. That being it is what it is. That's similar to numbers that we've seen from other providers in the state, and so I do feel good that if we are anticipating any kind of rate increase, it'll. Right now, I haven't heard any rate increases that are as low as we're contemplating. So, again, thanks everybody. Got a great. As much as we hate increasing rates, we got a bunch of people that scrimp and save and make do and fill in when they need to. So we can minimize those rate increases when they are necessary.
Chris, can you remind us when we're going to get the information from the city on their plans for next year, so we know how that impacts our budget?
They are going through a couple of, their CIP portion will be in February, kind of mid to late February. That'll be in that, I don't know that they have an official date yet, but I would either.
So we're still a few meetings out.
Yeah, before we know what their CIP stuff looks like.
Do you get involved in any of that? Do you go to any of those meetings? Are you invited even, or?
No, I think they're having a budget discussion right now. So those are going on. We're paying attention from the outside, but those are kind of council, and they're doing their one-off meetings with individual council people and kind of getting priorities.
Didn't they reverse how they were planning to do it this year? So they really covered their operational expenses, and then they were going to talk about their CIP.
Yeah, and so. Yeah, it is a little bit different format. They're like I said, the important component to us is what projects they're going to work on CIP-wise, and they've, of course, put that at the end, which I think means that there's going to be a little more judgment involved in what they accomplish, so hopefully that means probably less. But after they cover their, operations, and if there's the will of council to accomplish projects, we're certainly going to make every effort to participate where that saves IMU and its customers some money.
Do we give them a priority list for us?
Yeah, in December, after our December meeting where we kind of structured and presented that CIP, I did send that to the city, and so they have that in coordination with the rest of their stuff. They know what those IMU priorities are and the projects we're expecting to participate within at this point. You know, what that ends up being in February, I don't know.
So then will they meet with all of you again to compare theirs to ours and?
Yeah,
I
as
mean,
soon as
they
they
will.
have direction from council about, you know, what levels and what they're gonna accomplish, yeah, we'll jump right
okay.
in and like I said, we're gonna make every effort to coordinate with them, where that's possible.
Shared services, do you guys coordinate with the city on
We've got most of it done. We're still waiting on a couple of trailing items. I think, you know, most recently we just got the IT information in, and the HR share is increasing quite a bit, and we've asked for a little bit of, you know, probably leaning courtesy like we gave them with our shared services ramp up, what they can work in their budget. We don't know yet, but that's kind of the last of those amounts yet to accomplish.
Just understand that, they proposed an increase in the HR portion.
Yeah.
And you're trying to understand what the increase is for.
Yeah, I mean, we did have that meeting, Chris. I mean, what were those specific dollars on the HR side, you recall?
Their increase?
Yeah.
They had hired a full-time
General.
person in that department, yeah, so they went from 1.5 full-time employees to 2.5, so they hired another full-time person, so.
What was that dollar impact to us at our standard share?
I would have to look, I think it was, I hate to say off the top of my head, I can get that information to you though.
And the short calculation, whatever that increase, it was the 22.5% of that.
That was our portion of that employee.
Yeah, it was our portion of that employee, so.
So will we look at that and determine if it's still the right decision to borrow theirs versus coming in-house on our own?
Those are all kind of discussions that Chris and I are having. You know, ultimately,
Because I think that's
our
important.
options are somewhat limited, just given that we are part of this relationship, or the time that they spend is with the health insurance, and because we're self-insured, the city staff is in charge of the administration of that plan, and neither one of us individually are large enough to be self-insured, but together we're large enough to self-insured, and so, you know, a complete dissolution is probably a big task.
Is that the biggest component for us of using that shared services plan?
I mean, there's certainly, I think, the time dedication and, you know, the billing involved. That's what I think the city HR staff spends most of the time on. You know, there's certainly some other tasks that we've kind of got broke
Right.
down, and
We do some of it in-house with Chris's help.
I was gonna say, do you go by number of employees, their numbers versus ours, and kind of split it?
it is that we pay 22.5%, and that was kind of derived back a few years ago, just based upon Melissa did a time study of, you know, the tasks and what she takes, and, you know, what tasks benefit IMU administration-wise and what are just city, and you know, we arrived at that 22.5%. We certainly, amongst everything else, we do need to
Have you noticed
take a
a
look at it.
decrease in what you're doing pertaining to HR, Chris?
So I did
With
find
the
the
new
numbers.
person? I mean, since they've got a
My workload's kind of been the same, remained the same. I did find the numbers, so the fiscal year 24 amount for HR services that IMU paid to the city was $41,089, and then for fiscal year 25, 22.5% of the budget is $72,468.
So what are we getting for that 31,000?
I would say that's a pretty significant increase.
Yeah, what are we getting for that 30-some thousand increase? Like, we need to ask in the city. We shouldn't just accept that. They need to be told.
Well, especially if you haven't noticed a decrease in what you're doing, Chris. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
There's some things that are payroll related, so I have to be involved in those things, but certainly, yeah, the timeshare and duties and that sort of thing.
It's probably just good to have a review every few years anyway. Things change, policies change.
Just for that price, you can get a half a person part-time and probably accomplish that and not be paying that for the city.
The self-insurance, and that
Yeah.
complicates it.
It's
That's
I
a
agree.
valid point. But I think
Part-time, I don't think that's a push. I think
Dollars wise, it is.
we're paying someone part-time if we're paying them 72.
Well, you said half-time, too.
Oh, no, I said if we hired someone half-time, part-time.
But we can't hire somebody part-time to do that work, but because it's
Other than an umbrella.
yeah, it's under there, so. But I think the point is valid.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just more transparency would be good.
So that's what we're finishing up on, and like I said, I think we mentioned the tabletop exercise, and that is involving a large scale power outage, and also we are participating in the city hiring a consultant to look at housing needs, and we're participating as a interested party in that. I've got my utility interview scheduled on Wednesday.
Yeah, when I saw the thing the city sent out on Friday, I hate to say this, but there was a survey attached. I don't know how relevant some of the questions they were asking would be to most of our citizens.
I haven't seen any of that.
It was in the email that was sent out to us on Friday. We should all have looked at it.
I saw the email, but I did not see a survey.
Yeah, if you go into the email and read it through, there's a link there, and it takes you to the survey.
From the city?
I'd be curious to know what you read. I guess I felt as if it was
Just
leading.
their Friday emails.
It's their community.
The community.
Oh, the
update.
community,
Well, we got
I
three
did
up.
see that, but I haven't looked at
Yeah.
it. I guess I better start looking at that.
This is your person. Yeah, I, to be honest with you, I guess I felt it was kind of leading.
I was just curious what their goal is, because there's been so much conversation about development. It seems it's a little bit after the fact. So I didn't know what prompted them to do that right now.
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
I mean, there were questions in there as to your house size, does it meet your current needs? Are you able to keep up, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically, are you able to keep up with maintenance and those type things? And there's a part of this says, well, if they can't, what are we gonna do? We just gonna fix it for them, or?
Those are odd questions.
That's what I'm saying. I think it was trying to drive an outcome, and that sounds a little assumptive on my part maybe, but that's kind of how I felt. But there was a goal they were trying to attain by the survey.
Going back to the tabletop exercise, Mike, you mentioned this, but Kurt and Dustin, are you guys involved in that too?
I was invited, but I've got other stuff I'm doing, so I'm not gonna participate in that, so.
Anything else?
So you went to mean, there wasn't anything else come out of that, out of the meeting there?
I mean, ultimately, yeah, the big near term was settling on the rates.
How about the solar projects? Any conversation about that?
They've started construction, they've got through all the PACE applications and, all those last set of hurdles, they're through. They've started construction in Colorado, I think that was kind of the plan all the way along. They do Colorado, Nebraska, and then Iowa. They started that path. Things are, looking well, and over the next couple of weeks, we'll get a more finalized timeline. Those are, as things are going, they're kind of skipping around a little bit, doing a lot of the tasks and moving around, but when they do get to Iowa, ours will be more of a start to stop.
It might be nice, I don't know if you'll have the information, but this spring to give an update. We did our splash. I've gotten a lot of comments about it. People are excited about it. And now it just seems like we're not doing anything. So it may be good just to kind of bring up some of that. You're not seeing the work, but it's happening. It's just we're in the sequence of things.
Well, not only that, in conjunction with rate increases and other things, so, let them know, hey, we are.
Right.
We're trying to work hard to do some positive things to,
To help neutralize this.
We
Yeah.
have all of our equipment on our side.
Yeah, we've got transformers. There you go.
The only thing I would just say, would appreciate if you guys would go back to your crews and just tell them thank you for their work. I know this weather really stinks.
Yeah.
And having to be out and do stuff in that. I saw some things on social media complimenting our line crews and how quickly things got back up. So kudos to you guys for doing that. And then I also saw something which got me thinking. And I know we talked about this before. Some of the bad things about going with LED stoplights and so forth is they don't create heat. And so we have to clean the darn things off.
Oh, yeah.
That's our responsibility? How does that happen? Are there things we can do? Are there things we can buy so we don't have to?
Right. Put a heater on them.
So it did used to be a big deal when they used to be an incandescent bulb.
Yeah.
They had just created enough heat. When they went to the LEDs, they just don't create any heat. I did mention the other day, how that come about is Caleb, new street superintendent, called me and said, hey, we got some lights, people are PD and that's, and so we go out if we can, try to knock that stuff down for them or whatever. And him and I had a conversation about, what can we do, because it happens at least once or twice a year that we go out and help them knock that down. It just depends on which way the wind blows out or which ones we go knock off. But yeah, I think my understanding is there's possibly some that's got a little heater inside that can be turned on by temperature, that they're still efficient. So I think he was going to look at that as a possibility.
I was just curious more than anything, because there's part of me that says by the time we get to it, it needs to be done. As it's been building up to that point, and I would hate to see an accident or something happen
Right.
because they can't see
Can't
a stop
see the
light.
light.
Yeah, and it's been, this one, we happen to be at work to do it, but there's been times where over a weekend we have a storm and I've got to call somebody in.
2
Actually,
o'clock
I've
in
got
the
to call
morning.
2 guys in because somebody's got to drive a truck, somebody's got to be in that, just to try to speed up the process. And
Do we do that in a bucket? Is that what?
we do that in a bucket, and to be honest, if we could figure out a way to make it a little safer, it would be, because it's typically the roads aren't great.
Yeah.
And people they get behind you and they wait till the last minute. And they look at you as you're sitting there in the rearview mirrors, they're looking at you. I'm like, go around.
So when you say we help them, does that mean we do it, or does that mean they also have crews out there?
Yeah, they typically try to have crews available. This one, they just, because of the snow situation, he was short-staffed with people been out pushing snow all night long. So in this situation, I don't typically go, but it was towards the end of the day. We tried to run a crash vehicle, and I was the crash vehicle back behind the crew.
Awesome.
Yep.
I actually thought about you were driving out of town Saturday at the fairgrounds, one of those tents had fallen over, and as you're coming up on it, it looks like it's almost on the wire, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Fortunately, it wasn't when we got by it, but the snow had just carried it over, so.
yeah,
Anyway, that was crazy.
yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for doing that, guys. That's, I wouldn't want to be out there.
Anything else? If not, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
She's getting happy fingers over there. Awesome.